Let's give another round of applause to the award-winning Singing Eagles Choir from Imagine Elementary.
She said single first.
Just recently, while preparing for this talk with you all, my husband sent me a picture of a lynching that took place in our home state of Indiana in 1930. As I looked at this picture, I couldn't help but think of the first time. The year was 1998 in Nashville, Indiana, when I was called the N-word. When I first heard someone yell this, I turned around and I looked because I wanted to know who that person was talking to, because they couldn't have been talking to me, you all. Huh. But you see, my life experiences, the good and the bad, coupled with the stories of so many who came before me, is the reason why I am so passionate about speaking to all of you today. Speaking to you about the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. Speaking to you about thinking outside of the box. A great thinker once said, thinking outside of the box keeps you from suffocating inside of one. I said thinking inside of the box keeps you from suffocating in one. You see, oftentimes we try to put Martin Luther King and his work in a box. We talk about his speech, the big speech, I Have a Dream. But we fail to talk about the 2,500 other speeches that Martin Luther King did in his lifetime. We often state that Martin Luther King was a non-violent leader. But what we must understand is this. Martin Luther King used nonviolence as a strategy when he was a leader. You see, what we know about King is this. First and foremost, Dr. King was a religious leader. He came from the father and grandfather of Baptist pastors. He was also a civil rights leader. He was passionate about both. But history screams, and I mean it screams, of his battles with equal rights. Equal rights so that all races would be able to sit on the bus together. Hence, he organized the Montgomery bus boycott that lasted for 13 months and resulted in the Supreme Court ruling segregation on public buses is unconstitutional. And what we must realize is this. During that time, many people sacrificed because they did not have transportation to work. So they walked to and from. They were loyal to the cause. Equal rights so that all races would be able to come together and vote in elections. Hence, he organized a 55-mile march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, just as we marched this morning, that resulted in barriers being removed so that blacks would be able to vote. Because let's not forget about the poll tax that blacks had to pay in order to vote, and also those literacy tests that were almost impossible for blacks to pass because of how confusing they were. Equal rights so that all races would be able to go to school together. Hence, he wrote President Eisenhower requesting desegregation of schools. The result, I, Clara Thigpen, today am able to be the principal of a school with black children and white children and Hispanic children and Native American children. Equal rights leader. This is something that I think we all need to understand about King. Because I think when we think of him, we think of this superhuman. But let's not get this twisted. Leadership is when ordinary people do extraordinary things. You see, Martin Luther King dealt with human frailties just like you and me. Many of you may not know that when he was a teenager, he tried to commit suicide a couple of times. Many of you may not know he suffered from severe depression as an adult. But let me say this to you. That did not keep Martin Luther King from being a great leader. And guess what, my brothers and my sisters? That should not keep you from being a great leader in your home and in the community. Not only was Dr. King a great leader, he was a man of purpose. And this allowed him to think outside of the box. And I need you to say that with me. We need to think outside. We need to think outside the box. Dr. King himself said, if a man has not discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live. This quote is all about living life with a purpose. One of my favorite scriptures comes from the book of Proverbs. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is God's purpose that will prevail in our lives. This scripture reminds me so much of my own life. As when I first went to college, I said that I wanted to be an architect, and that's what I enrolled as, an architect major. But after going back to Gary, Indiana, back and forth, and after seeing how the neighborhood that I grew up in, after seeing how it was infested with drugs and crime, I knew that I wanted to make a greater difference. And so I changed my major to education. You see, my plan was to be an architect. But God's purpose for my life was so much greater than that. Dr. Martin Luther King clearly had a purpose, my brothers and sisters. And I want to ask you this question. What is your purpose? What is your purpose in life? You see, if I were to ask you, what's the purpose of this rail right here, you could tell me. If I were to ask you, what's the purpose of a chair, you could tell me. We're very quick. It's so easy for us to tell about the purpose of a material thing. But I'm asking you today, I'm asking you, you're living and you're breathing. What is your purpose in life? What did God call you to this earth to do? What we must understand is this. When we don't know the purpose of our lives, my friends, we set ourselves up to be used and abused. We might spend time in relationships that are harmful to us. Spend years working on jobs that bring us absolutely no fulfillment. When we know our purpose, it can be one of the most rewarding things in life. And when we don't know it, my friends, it can cause us a lot of unwanted stress. I can tell you this about my purpose, because some of you might be saying right now, how will I know? It's that one thing that you can do every single day. You can get out of bed for it and do it, and no one would have to pay you a dime to do it. It is what you were called to this earth to do. Dr. King had a purpose on this earth. Purpose helps us to have a clear vision for our lives. It is what we were born to do. I can't stress that enough. Dr. King understood his God-given purpose, and he could not have achieved his purpose on this earth without thinking outside of the box. Dr. King had a lot to say about purpose, and I dare not compare myself to the great orator Dr. King. But on this 51st anniversary of his death, let me leave you with a few things that he said. He said the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. He said whatever your life's work is, do it well. A man should do his job so well that the living, the dead, and the unborn can do it no better. He also said that life's most persistent and urgent question is this: what are you doing for others? And lastly, Dr. King stated from his famous speech, "I have a dream." He said, when we let freedom ring from every city and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children